صباح النور وأهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام إلى حوار جديد مع شخصية ريادية جديدة. رائد أعمال مخضرم يعد من أوائل الخبراء المؤسسين لسلطة دبي للخدمات المالية DFSA Dubai Financial Services Authority وسوق أبو ظبي العالمي ADGM أبو ظبي Global Market. يعتمد ضيفنا على 4 ركائز ريادية هي تنفيذ الاستراتيجية لتحويلها إلى تشغيلية، هيكلة الفوضى لتحسين البنية التحتية، التميز في الأداء، وطبعا حوكمة الشركات. للتعرف أكثر على هذه القصة الريادية يسعدني أن أحاور في الاستوديو اليوم السيد جان بلادن الشريك الإداري لشركة Governance Creed أو ما يسمى بعقيدة الحوكمة. Good morning, Jan.
Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Here. Jan, like you have amazing background and you've worked, like you are from the founders of DFSA, executive advisor and lead program to ADGM and many more. Many people, like, I think they ask themselves, how does a regulatory authority who regulates entities and enforces governance on others have or maintain their own governance principles? How did you witness that?
Look, at the end of the day, good governance is about establishing that international trust with the global investors. So the better we can contribute to making sure that we've got the right regulatory infrastructures, the right governance infrastructures, the stronger the reputation of the region. And the stronger the reputation of the region, the easier it will be for us to be able to attract foreign direct investment. Yeah. So it's really about providing the right regulatory infrastructure for boards, for governance, for the control environment, to give that reassurance to the investors.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've worked closely with the private sector and, as we mentioned, the public sector. What are the main differences or highlights between governance principles here and there?
Look, the similarities between government sector and the private sector is that generally they're both businesses. Some of the challenges in the government sector is making sure that whilst you've got shareholder representatives sitting on the board, you need to leave enough space on the board for that skill set that you require. So you might have 1 or 2 representatives from government sitting on the board, but you really want to try and ensure that you've got the right skills in terms of strategy, talent retention, regulatory oversight, and others around the board as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jan, you're also involved in the Fintech world. And Fintech is, like, in terms of governance, it's still new to many. And many people, when they say governance with Fintech, they say, once I have IT governance, I'm good. But I doubt this is accurate. What's your experience?
Look, a fintech business is a business, just like any other business. So yes, you need to ensure that you've got the right fintech regulatory oversight in terms of the IT side, but then you need to make sure that you've got the right skills around the board to help contribute. And it's also about growing the board at the same speed that the organization's growing. So in a fintech startup, you don't want a heavy board. But once the fintech starts getting to a certain size, you need to make sure that you've got the independent audit committee, that you've got the right checks, balances, compliance, risk management, and those elements. So it's about making sure that board oversight is in sync with the growth of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Jan, when it comes to board evaluation, which is a key element of governance, like sustainable corporate governance, many board members are still hesitant or resisting this board evaluation. Once they accept that, and let's assume board evaluation is done, how to utilize the outcome of this board evaluation to have sustainable governance moving forward?
Look, let's start with the rules and regulations up and down across the GCC. We've seen a huge amount of effort go into developing those rules and regulations, especially on the corporate governance side. And it's now mandatory for most organizations to carry out a yearly self-assessment, and then every 3 years to have an independent organization come in and carry out a board assessment. Now, a board assessment's not about criticizing. It's about helping a board evolve and grow. It's about finding the different areas within a specific sector, within a specific board, where you can get that board to improve their contribution. Now, I'll tell you why. A strong board adds substantial value to an organization. So if you get the right skills, the right committees, the right components, that board will be able to actively contribute in terms of strategy,
Yeah.
talent retention, performance management.
Absolutely.
So a good board is actually an asset to an organization. And board assessments are simply trying to help boards evolve and improve.
Yeah, absolutely. You're also involved in talent management, big time. Why some organizations doesn't get it right or doesn't get the concept of talent management?
Out of the 4 key responsibilities that a board has, defining strategy is one. Making sure that you're retaining and attracting the talent to implement that strategy is absolutely key. When I was at the DFSA, we started a program called Tomorrow's Regulatory Leaders, specifically targeting Emiratis. And the talent we have available in our lady population of Emiratis, those that have gone to university, that have come out of university, is absolutely fantastic. So I think one of the untapped resources that we have in the UAE is the talent in Emirati ladies.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I fully agree that they're amazing. Dealing with them, they're talented.
I sit on the Nominations and Remuneration Committee of a private equity firm, an asset management firm in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I did their boardroom skill set mix and rotation, and we've just appointed our first lady to that board.
Wow.
So we're starting to see diversity coming into boardrooms across the region. What we need to develop is that lady Arab talent for the boardroom.
Yes.
Because having different perspectives around the boardroom table and different gender mixes just adds more to the debate that a board can opine on, and adds more value to the organization.
Yeah, and I like how you linked it with diversity and inclusion, which still, I think, we're like getting there, but some organizations still not include, I think, or incorporate the diversity and inclusion as it should be.
I think there are 2 challenges. One is developing our boardroom talent. The other one is developing our female boardroom talent. And I'm reading between the lines, I suspect it will probably take us another 10 years to develop that population of independent board members that are actually ladies.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Jan, for the entrepreneurs watching us now, or like startups, or people like having ideas to be there, to set their business, what's your top 3 advices to them in order to have sustainable compliance and governance culture? And of course, like, keep it moving forward.
I think the first piece of advice was make sure you attract the appropriate advisors. Maybe 1 or 2 advisors that have got a bit of grey hair. Often entrepreneurs are young, they've got the energy, they've got the dynamism, but they might not necessarily have maybe the wisdom that comes more with age. So trying to surround yourself with 1 or 2 advisors that can help you, point you in the right direction, encourage you, is probably the most important factor. When you're building a board for an SME, you need to make sure that you're building the appropriate size.
Yes.
You don't want a board of 11 people overseeing an SME. That's too heavy. So you just need to grow that board as the enterprise is growing as well.
Yeah. And do you see like receptivity from the market on these advisors from dealing with them? When you advise them this, what's the receptivity?
Yes, the receptivity is there. It's all about the trust and the relationship. So if the entrepreneur is willing to trust you, if they've approached you rather than the other way around, one thing is the cultural interaction, the EQ. The other thing is actually being able to give basic advice, sound advice, to help entrepreneurs who are often 18 hours a day running around. They've got numerous challenges. It's not always easy for an SME in the UAE to start and evolve. Our infrastructure in the UAE was built for larger organizations. So we've got a lot to do in the next 5 years to try and help the SME sector boom.
Yeah, amazing. And Dan, like, I always like watch you and look forward for your ventures, and you're always like on the run, like every day there's something, which is very exciting. And thank you for doing that. It's very inspirational. What's your next venture?
Okay, the next venture is about restoring the Middle Eastern reputation for private equity. We have a gap in the market. We have an intergenerational transition happening on family businesses, and we've got a significant amount of undeployed LP capital globally. So bridging the trust gap between global investors and local opportunities as the next one. So we have a team together, we've got a board together. We're looking at wanting to build the most trusted, well-run, well-governed, ethical, private equity acquisition and turnaround business for the region.
Amazing. And what's the time frame to achieve that?
Look, the board's already in place. We've got ex-Lazar, we've got ex-PwC. It looks like as of last week, we've potentially got somebody from the European Investment Bank as well. The team's in place, deal flow's in place. We're 60% funded on the GP side, and hopefully if we can close with the remaining investors next 3 to 6 months.
Amazing. And Jan, I think like also the audience, that it's worth mentioning, you're also very active in programs and trainings and awareness session. If you can tell us like briefly about that.
Look, I think my corporate governance expertise started about 20 years ago. I was accredited by the IFC and the World Bank in terms of corporate governance in emerging markets. Did a lot of work for the Institute of Directors. Yes, I do spend a reasonable part of my time trying to help boards develop, help boards grow. I think the advantage is not just the theoretical side. Being a board member myself of multiple organizations and a chairman, it means that you can really bring the practical side.
Yes.
So when I'm trying to advise chairman, I'm actually talking from my own chairmanship role as well. So I understand the challenges that they're facing. And it's about taking rules and regulations and codes of corporate governance and putting them into a practical form for boards to be able to implement.
Absolutely. And recently, I think 2 weeks ago or like 1 week ago, you had a program, right?
I often do it for, yes, I was asked to hold an event at the Capital Club.
Which is very successful on corporate governance.
So we have a lot of chairmen attend, a lot of board members attend. It's all about creating the awareness and the practical building blocks of how boards can improve.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Jan Bladen, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank you.
وهلا بنعود لكم زملائنا بمركز الأخبار لاستكمال فقرات إكسبو هذا الصباح.